to say. I don't think anyone saw Nigel Farage walking the plank this morning, but what does it mean for UKIP? What does it mean for who's going to take over? Well, I'm joined by Suzanne Evans, senior UKIP politician. I suppose a lot of people will be wondering, will you take over?
Well, I'd love to. I've always said if Nigel ever stood down for whatever reason, I'd love to have the opportunity to lead UKIP. But I'm in this rather bizarre situation that despite people wanting me to do that and me wanting to do it myself, I'm actually technically suspended from the party at the moment until the end of September. So obviously if I'm not technically a party member, it's going to make it very difficult for me to stand.
Will you be appealing or trying in any way to get round the suspension?
I did set the appeal process in train. However, it became very clear quite quickly that it was just going to be a rerun of my original suspension, that the outcome was going to be prejudged. So I saw absolutely no point in continuing with that. So at this stage, I'm suspended and cannot run for the leadership.
OK, what now for UKIP? Because many people will have seen UKIP as Nigel Farage's party.
I think this was always the problem. Nigel Farage had a very tight grip on UKIP. He was the one big figure there. And what I tried to do when I wrote the 2015 general election manifesto was to try and move on from that, to say, look, we're not a one-man band, we're not a single-issue party. And that manifesto went down really well with the members. So whatever happens now, we have to recognise that we have that manifesto to build on, that there are good people in the party, apart from Nigel, who can carry this party forward, and we have policies that are not just all about immigration. And whoever leads UKIP next, that's got to be made abundantly clear, because that's the only way we're going to grow, it's the only way we're going to continue to get support from former Labour voters in the north and former Conservative voters in the south of the country.
I sense from you that you think Nigel Farage's departure might actually be a liberation for UKIP.
It could be. It very well could be, with the right policies and the right leader in place. Whoever does take over will of course want to put their own stamp on the party, and that's the way it's got to be. Nigel, I have to pay tribute to him. He's got his lifetime ambition, and so I can quite see why he stood down, even though it was a surprise to most of us who thought he might go on and on and on. I think those were his own words at one point, but I can quite see why he's made the decision he has.
And what do you say to those who say, well, there's no point in UKIP anymore, you have achieved what you set out to achieve? Nigel Farage this morning said it was the Turkeys voting for Christmas. Why UKIP anymore?
Well, I completely disagree. The Labour Party is in turmoil. UKIP has been doing incredibly well among people who were former Labour voters who've got completely disillusioned with the Labour Party and quite rightly recognise that it does not speak for the working man and woman in Britain anymore today. The Conservative Party, now who is going to be the new leader of the Conservative Party? If it is Theresa May, we don't believe that her heart is in leaving the European Union. So therefore, if she's going to take the Conservative Party away from its so often, a lot of people in the party Eurosceptic, then there's a huge role for UKIP to play too. So I think there is still very much everything to play for.
Suzanne Evans, thanks so much for your time. I should say Nigel Farage isn't quite disappearing over the hill. He will still be an MEP for the next 2 years, where he says he will be monitoring closely what he calls to check there is no appeasement in terms of the British government's approach to Brexit.